E.M.M.I is an aggressive yet calculated all-rounder who specializes in pushing its opponents to their limits, putting them in a corner before tearing their defenses apart with a wide variety of powerful physical abilities. While its large frame might make it difficult to avoid incoming damage, this machine is equipped with everything it needs to keep up the chase. And once it gets its hands on you, your chances of survival are scarce. As an E.M.M.I player, it's your job to use your oppressive normals and arsenal of tricky special attacks to cripple your opponent's resolve, giving them nowhere to run before going in for the kill, much like you'd expect this terrifying machine to do to you in Metroid Dread. The E.M.M.I stands as a large, semi-humanoid character, standing taller than either Bowser or Ganondorf and only coming up short to fellow Metroid character, Ridley. An absolutely terrifying presence on the battlefield, the E.M.M.I design for Smash is a unique composite design, taking all of the major aspects from the 6 E.M.M.Is from Metroid Dread and creating what can only be described as the ultimate killing machine. As a result, I feel it's only fitting that this E.M.M.I receives a new model number, this being known as E.M.M.I XXSB. While the damage output of the XSSB model is much higher than that of your average E.M.M.I model, this custom chassis requires more lightweight armor to not weigh it down and make it inoperable. As a result, this E.M.M.I model will take regular damage from all sources, setting it apart from its nigh impenetrable brethren and making it a fair fight for those looking to fight back. Aside from its wide variety of E.M.M.I based weaponry, the XSSB's main weapons are the same as all other units, these being its long limbs and powerful clawed appendages. All 4 of its limbs are capable of rotating 360 degrees, allowing for it to fold and contort its body in ways that no living creature can. And mix that with its ability to extend those limbs and walk on walls, and you have a character that won't stop for anything until it has you in its grasp. In terms of mobility options, the E.M.M.I has 2 jumps, along with the ability to crawl, wall jump, and wall cling. Thanks to its programming, each E.M.M.I unit is designed to operate within a specific area, constantly patrolling and monitoring its surroundings for potential intruders. These machines are constantly scanning their surroundings via a holographic beam it can release from its eye, and once it catches a potential threat in its line of sight, it will begin its pursuit, doing everything in its power to catch them and, well, I'm sure I don't need to tell you what comes next. This crucial aspect of their programming also happens to serve as the E.M.M.I's character mechanic, this being known as Pursuit Mode. For this mechanic, the E.M.M.I will have a meter next to their percent bar, its design being similar to that of the E.M.M.I itself, with a large red eye on the end of it. This is what is known as the scanner bar, and this is what will make use of E.M.M.I's unique down special, Scanner. By tapping down B, the E.M.M.I will activate its short-range scanner, it emitting a beam of blue light from its face that will cover a notable distance in front of them while active. In this state, the E.M.M.I is capable of moving around like they would normally, and if an enemy steps into range of the scanner, the light will change from blue to yellow and the scanner bar will begin to fill. As long as the opponent stays within range of the scanner, the meter will continue to fill, and the fact that the E.M.M.I can move around while their scanner is active makes it much easier to keep opponents in your line of sight. Although, to compensate, the meter will fill slower while moving than it will while you're standing still. Once the bar has been filled completely, the light will change from yellow to red and the E.M.M.I will let out a series of chirps and whirs, its eye glowing a bright red to signify that the E.M.M.I has officially entered Pursuit Mode, this being a visual notification for its player and a dangerous warning for the opponent in its line of sight. Once it enters Pursuit Mode, the E.M.M.I will gain a 20% boost to its movement speed, all while the damage and knockback of its throws will be increased by 1.3 times their normal value. But the main change that the E.M.M.I receives in this state is its dangerous new down special, Lockdown. Lockdown is a unique aerial denial special that will have the E.M.M.I's eye display a holographic exclamation point, its limbs rotating wildly as it lets out a series of rapid whirs and chirps. At this point, electric particles will rise up from the ground a set distance away from the E.M.M.I, creating an E.M.M.I zone door that will be marked with the same exclamation mark emitting from its face. This door, at first, doesn't do anything except block the opponent's ability to either retreat or approach. But if an opponent makes contact with the door, either on their own or being knocked into it by the E.M.M.I breathing down their neck, they will take minimal damage and be bounced back in the opposite direction. This move is sporting some notably strong hit stun. This E.M.M.I door will stay active for a total of 4 seconds, and will deactivate earlier if the opponent makes contact with it a total of 3 times. And if used in the air, the door will only stay active for 2 seconds and deactivate early if the opponent only hits it once. Overall, this move is used to help the E.M.M.I lock down its foes and open them up for either a powerful stock closing blow or a destructive combo that will cause their percent to rise very quickly. And once the door has been deactivated, the player will be unable to activate another door again for a 5-second time window. But this cooldown will be reduced if the E.M.M.I takes damage. Speaking of which, Pursuit mode in itself is a mode that, if the player is careful and knows how to exploit their opponent's weaknesses, can be kept up almost indefinitely. Much like an E.M.M.I chase can go on forever if you don't know how to properly escape it. But of course, such drastic upsides would be far too much if the opponent didn't have a chance to fight back. If the E.M.M.I takes a total of 35% damage while in pursuit mode, its programming will be forced into a hard reset and will revert back to its regular mode. It's striking a similar pose to its stun animation from Dread as it does so. Pursuit mode will also end if the E.M.M.I is KO'd. But there's also another way to end pursuit mode even earlier, and it's one where you don't even need to approach. In Metroid Dread, if Samus manages to get too far away from an E.M.M.I or moves into a place where it can't follow, the E.M.M.I will deactivate its pursuit mode and return to search mode, and this is also a mechanic that the E.M.M.I carries along with it to Smash. When pursuit mode is active, the E.M.M.I will become surrounded in a wide glowing aura, this symbolizing pursuit mode's area of effect and covering roughly 40% of your average battlefield or Omega stage. If an opponent manages to escape this area of effect and keep themselves out of it for a total of 3 seconds, this will force the E.M.M.I to immediately end its pursuit mode and return to search mode, leaving it with a scanner bar that's 25% full. This brings the E.M.M.I's weakness to keep away and hit and run back into account, as characters with notably fast movement speed or projectile gains might be able to dance around its strongest setup tools. But those that can truly master the E.M.M.I's ability to pressure and scare its enemies into a dead end will find out that there's far more to this machine's game plan than you're being led to believe. Catch opponents in your web of damage and never let them out, using all the tools at your disposal to give them nowhere to run. And once their resolve has been shattered, send them to the blast zone with your plethora of powerful kill options. This is the epitome of what it means to play as the E.M.M.I. Now that you've got a solid understanding of how it works, let's now discuss the attacks that make up this terrifying combatant and begin talking about its normals. Despite being originally designed for research, the E.M.M.I's base arsenal of abilities is more than enough to crush anything that tries to fight it head-on, making use of its powerful limbs and clawed hands, all while using the ability to freely rotate said limbs and contort its body in a variety of ways. The E.M.M.I's neutral combo is Containment Combination, a standard combo attack that will have the E.M.M.I attack with a pair of horizontal claw slashes, all before performing one powerful vertical slash to end the combo. This final hit will count as a meteor smash, meaning the E.M.M.I can use this combo's fairly long range as a decent edge guarding tool, but overall, it's a decent neutral option and a great way to catch mistakes when your opponent least expects it. The E.M.M.I's forward tilt is Plasma Rotor, a long range poke option that will have the E.M.M.I extend its arm forward, it fully elongating its joints and striking with its claw. As it thrusts its arm forward, the E.M.M.I will rotate its limbs before emitting a small electric charge from its palm, this allowing the attack to hit up to 3 times before the opponent is launched from the force of the shock. Thanks to both its range and multiple hits, this is the E.M.M.I's primary poke option, and while its damage is only about average, the fact that it allows a character as large as the E.M.M.I to pressure its opponents from afar makes an attack that will be quite difficult to trade with and even more difficult to approach against. The E.M.M.I's up tilt is Claw Upheaval, a wide-hitting anti-air option that will have the E.M.M.I slash upwards with both of its claws at once, scraping the ground before knocking any opponent in its path up into the air. As it uses not only both of its arms, but also raises its upper body, this move's range is quite notable, it allowing for the E.M.M.I to safely challenge opponents above it, regardless if they're on a platform or trying to land. But this move also has a notable downside, and that's its startup speed. As a result, this move needs to be something the player keeps unpredictable, especially against opponents that are already on the ground, as a flubbed attempt to attack with this move will more than likely leave you wide open to some serious damage given your size. Thankfully, like its forward tilt, the forearms of the E.M.M.I are disjointed during this attack, so there's always a chance to win a trade if your opponent jumps the gun. The E.M.M.I's down tilt is Crush Step, one of the first showings of the E.M.M.I's contortion abilities as it bends its lower body up and forward, all before bringing its leg down in front of it, crushing whatever is in its path. This unique attack will launch foes away on hit normally if they're on the ground, but if this move ends up hitting an opponent that's airborne, it will spike them into the floor before they're launched upwards, much like the final hit of the E.M.M.I's neutral combo. Also, another unique aspect of this move is the fact that it's capable of canceling as soon as the hitbox becomes active, but not into a shield or a jump. No, instead it can cancel into itself, this having the E.M.M.I bring up its other leg to attack in the same manner, the second hit dealing roughly the same damage as the first strike but with slightly longer end leg. Also, as an added bonus, the E.M.M.I will contort its body backwards until it pulls itself up and ahead of its leg's new position. It's essentially pushing itself forward as it brings its arms down the ground and returns to its natural crouch state. The E.M.M.I's dash attack is Charge Rush, a play on its axis to speed booster as the E.M.M.I surrounds itself in electricity, all before rushing forward at incredible speed and barreling through whatever's in its path. This powerful gap-closing tool will cover a sizable distance, allowing for the E.M.M.I to snag an opponent from quite a distance away. But in turn, this move's cooldown is fairly long, meaning that it'll more than likely end up getting punished if the opponent sees the attack coming. As a result, it's best to make use of said distance and bait out an attack before going in for the dash, as on top of its long range, it's also a fairly strong kill option. For its get-up attacks, the E.M.M.I will attack around itself by either extending its arms or attacking with its legs, all while performing a double claw slash for its ledge attack. And yes, the E.M.M.I will hang on from the ledge using its feet, much like it can naturally hold on to and climb ledges using both its arms and its legs. For its smash attacks, the E.M.M.I will show off the full flexibility of its metallic frames that puts the full force of its powerful limbs on display, crushing opponents beneath its iron grip and swatting away aggressors like flies. The E.M.M.I's forward smash is Dreadful Claws, a powerful yet creepy showing that will have the E.M.M.I flip its torso around, all before slamming both of its claws into the ground to launch any nearby opponents away with heavy force. This attack will cover a decent range, thanks to the fact that the E.M.M.I will use its entire upper body in this attack, on top of its disjointed forearms being difficult to trade with. However, try to be mindful of this move's cooldown, as the time it takes for the E.M.M.I to spin itself back around into its idle position will leave them vulnerable to damage. The E.M.M.I's up smash is Backup Drive, a powerful anti-air option that will have the E.M.M.I lock up its legs, all before flipping its entire body to strike above it, using its leg like that of a scythe to send opponents soaring. This move's range is fantastic, allowing the E.M.M.I to potentially catch opponents standing on the tallest platforms of stages like Battlefield. And as an added effect, using this attack will flip the E.M.M.I's standing direction, allowing the player to potentially follow up this move with an aerial at low percents, an aerial coming from a direction the opponent might not be ready for. Finally, the E.M.M.I's down smash is Spark Cutter, just having the E.M.M.I lock its feet in place before performing a pair of white-hitting electric slashes, contorting its body to the side in order to maximize the range of its powerful claws. And thanks to said range, this move is capable of easily catching any opponent thinking they can slip past the E.M.M.I. This attack also has the benefit of hitting on both sides simultaneously, making it easily one of the E.M.M.I's best edge-guarding tools. While we've never seen one of these machines jump, one could imagine that their powerful joints allow for some decent jump height, and the E.M.M.I will combine said jump height with a kit of powerful aerials designed to catch opponents from a range and close out stocks with effective force. Like their grounded normals, the E.M.M.I will mainly utilize its powerful clawed limbs to dish out damage, although it will also tap into its more unique damage options to challenge its opponent's resolve. Speaking of which, the E.M.M.I's neutral air is Shine Spark Shock, a versatile aerial option that will have the E.M.M.I cloak its body in a wave of purple light, it crackling with electricity and dealing rapid damage to any opponent that gets too close. Thanks to the E.M.M.I's size, this move's range is immense, allowing for the player to easily catch mistakes in the neutral with its rapid damage. However, this move's low cooldown also allows for the E.M.M.I to land safely with the attack as well, allowing for the player to potentially follow up with a grounded normal out of either a short or full hop. Just be sure to keep in mind that this move isn't disjointed and can easily be punished if the opponent outspaces you. The E.M.M.I's forward air is Containment Slash, a powerful spacing option that will have the E.M.M.I swipe in front of it with both arms at the same time. This attack covering a solid range and dealing heavy damage before the opponent is launched away. Overall, this is one of the E.M.M.I's safest aerial kill confirms, allowing it to go off stage and snipe opponents at their most vulnerable, and thanks to the disjoint on the forearms, it's also quite effective at trading with other blows. However, to compensate for all these rather great upsides, this move's landing leg is pretty slow, making it very unsafe to fast fall with. Try using this move during a full hop, for if you do, you might be able to transition into a grounded normal as soon as you touch the ground. The E.M.M.I's up air is Rotor Ripper, an unorthodox showing of the E.M.M.I's strength as it fully spins its body around, its eyes staring straight at the camera and never moving as the opponent is launched by its extended arms. This move will hit up to 3 times before the opponent is launched by the final attack, the E.M.M.I's arms forming a Z shape as it spins around. If you look closely, one might accidentally confuse it for the Metroid logo itself, and much like the killer hit that was Dread, this move can be used to confirm kills off the top of the screen at mid to high percents. The E.M.M.I's back air is Heavy Lock, another powerful spacing option that will have the E.M.M.I bend its legs backwards, opening them horizontally before performing a pincer attack, striking with both of its legs at the same time and locking them together as they connect. This move sports a sweet spot if the opponent happens to be caught at the point where the feet lock, making this move especially deadly if the player spaces properly. But like its forward air, this move's landing leg is quite long and rather unsafe to use out of a short hop. Finally, the E.M.M.I's down air is Dreadful Meteor, the E.M.M.I using its full body as a weapon as it flips forward, striking with its legs before sending the opponent flying with its fully extended arms. This multi-hit attack will spike if the opponent is hit by the initial arm strike, with the power of the spike depending on which part of the arm lands. If the opponent is hit by the base of the forearms, the spike power will be quite strong, while being hit by the lower half of the forearm will reduce the move's spike power by a notable amount. Regardless, this is a great stalk closer thanks to both its range and strength. And if the opponent is hit by the first hit, they'll be locked into the spike. Just be sure to not try landing with it, as even compared to its other aerial options, this move's landing lag is notably slow. The E.M.M.I will grab its opponent by reaching its arm forward, attempting to grasp onto them. If this grab connects, the E.M.M.I will pin said opponent to the floor, much like they do to Samus once they corner her in Metroid Dread. For its pummel, the E.M.M.I will increase its grip, dealing moderate damage as the opponent struggles under the crushing pressure. For its throws, the E.M.M.I will utilize its overwhelming strength to toss its opponent around like a ragdoll. These throws dealing solid damage and being one of the safest ways the E.M.M.I can confirm a kill. If your opponent tries to force you into a corner, show them you're not a character who can be pushed around. The E.M.M.I's forward throw is Rejection Smash, one of the E.M.M.I's more tame throw options as it picks the opponent off the ground, crushing them in its grasp before slamming them into the floor. In terms of launch power, this throw is only above average, with it mainly being used for repositioning and getting the opponent out of your comfort zone. If you're looking for a kill option, you might want to look at the E.M.M.I's other options. The E.M.M.I's up throw is Extraction Rocket, a far more powerful showing of the E.M.M.I's kill power as it drives its claws deep into its opponent, scraping them hard along the floor before tossing the opponent straight up into the air. This is one of the E.M.M.I's kill throws, with it having the potential to kill at a decent percent. But aside from said kill potential, it's lacking in all other areas as the E.M.M.I can't follow up this throw with attacks. The E.M.M.I's back throw is Scrap Launcher, another powerful showing of the E.M.M.I's kill power as the E.M.M.I will spin its body around, its joints spinning and repositioning as it then walks forward, violently scraping the opponent along the floor before tossing them away. While this throw might have some visual similarities to that of King K. Rool's back throw, it sports notably stronger kill power and just more damage in general. And unlike its up throw, the E.M.M.I can also use this as a repositioning tool if the opponent is outside of its kill range, making it far more versatile. Finally, the E.M.M.I's down throw is Blender Cycle, this having the E.M.M.I spin its limbs around at a high speed, rapidly damaging the opponent as they're spun around before they're bounced off the floor. At low to mid percents, this throw can actually be used as a combo starter, but as the opponent's percent increases, this throw will quickly lose its value. At this point, it's more useful as a fake-out tool to catch your opponent off guard, but it's much better to go with either your up or back throw if your opponent is in kill range. We've now reached the E.M.M.I Specials, and this is where the E.M.M.I model will make use of its unique combat system, allowing it to tap into the various abilities used by the 7 E.M.M.I units seen in Metroid Dread. These specials are designed to punish poor placement and make mistakes in the neutral a very costly affair, and as is to be expected, they also synergize with its normal kit near seamlessly. Starting with its neutral special, the E.M.M.I will utilize the power of E.M.M.I Unit 06WB, this being known as Plasma Seeker. Plasma Seeker is a chargeable projectile that will have the E.M.M.I build up energy within its eye, a ball of purple energy forming and growing in size the longer the attack is charged for. Once the move is fully charged, tapping the B button again will have the E.M.M.I launch it forward, this slow moving projectile traveling a decent distance before disappearing in a small burst of purple light. This move's range is affected by how long it's charged for, with it going from a short-range projectile at next to no charge to a projectile that can cover roughly the same length of a battlefield or a mega stage at full charge. And as an added bonus, this projectile's unique properties will allow for it to pass through other projectiles. However, said upsides are nothing compared to what happens if the opponent is hit by the ball of plasma. Once this attack manages to strike an opponent, they will take minimal damage and be pushed back a small distance, all before being forced into very heavy hit stun, making it nearly impossible to move and leaving them wide open to even more potential damage. This move's stun length will also depend on how long the move is charged for, with it only being a brief moment at little to no charge and going up to 1.5 seconds at maximum charge. And while that doesn't sound like much time, it's more than enough time for the E.M.M.I to either use a powerful stock closer or close the gap and catch its opponent in its dangerous grab range. Also, as an added bonus, this move's unique properties will make it a move that cannot be reflected, it instead passing through the reflector and moving along its path. And yes, the opponent holding the reflector will be unaffected if they hold the reflector up, so I suppose you could consider it more of a deflect than a reflect. Of course, this is all as it manages to land, as this attack's movement speed is its biggest detriment. While it allows the E.M.M.I to control mid-range rather effectively, using this move against opponents at long range will make it notably easy to dodge, and even at mid-range it could prove dangerous against characters with quick aerial attacks. Pick your time to attack carefully, for once you have your opponent stuck, there's very little they can do to escape your grasp. Moving on to its side special, the E.M.M.I will make use of two different abilities, with the one you get depending on whether or not the E.M.M.I is on the ground or in the air. On the ground, the E.M.M.I will utilize security measures, while in the air, the E.M.M.I will use Spider Bite. Starting with security measures, this is a powerful neutral tool that will have the E.M.M.I slam its claw down into the ground in front of it, this causing a pair of mines to pop out of the ground and fly up into the air, all before exploding and dealing damage to any opponent in its area of effect. These explosives will deal some moderate damage, on top of it having some rather weak knockback growth, but all of this is offset by the attack's main strength, its launch angle. Once an opponent is hit by the mine's explosive burst, they will be knocked in the direction of the E.M.M.I, its hit stun and low cooldown making it one of the E.M.M.I's best mid-range engagement tools, and thanks to its low knockback growth, this can work just as well at high percents as it can at low percents. Of course, this will only work effectively against grounded opponents, as they're more than capable of not only jumping over the explosives, but catching the E.M.M.I before he even has a chance to move. So perhaps it'd be best to use this move sparingly, trying to keep the opponent on their toes and catching them when they least expect it. Moving on to Spider Bite, the E.M.M.I will magnify its claws before lunging forward through the air. And if the E.M.M.I comes into contact with a wall or solid surface, the E.M.M.I will cling to said surface and be able to walk along it for a short period of time. With this, the E.M.M.I is capable of not only walking along the bottom of platforms, but up walls and even along the bottom of some stages, it being able to walk from one side of the stage to the other before the effect wears off. And on top of that, the E.M.M.I can also perform attacks while grabbing onto solid surfaces, allowing them to edgeguard their opponent from the most unexpected of places. Also, if an opponent gets in between the E.M.M.I and a solid surface while it's performing the initial dash, it will grab the opponent and fall through the air with them, slamming them hard into the ground and dealing heavy damage in the process. As this can happen offstage against an edgeguarding opponent unprepared for it, this character can indeed E.M.M.I side its foes. Moving on to its recovery special, the E.M.M.I will utilize the blinding speed of E.M.M.I Unit 04SB and utilize its defining feature, this move being dubbed Booster Rush. With this, the E.M.M.I will build up energy in its body before rushing in a direction chosen by the player, its body cloaked in a glowing yellow light and dealing damage to any opponent unlucky enough to be in its path. This move's recovery style is quite similar to moves used by Fox and Ridley, although if used on the ground, the E.M.M.I will be unable to fly up into the air, it instead rushing forward along the ground much like 04SB did to pursue Samus when she first entered its E.M.M.I zone. Overall, this recovery's range is pretty great, but like other recoveries of its kind, the E.M.M.I is fully vulnerable to damage while building up energy, allowing for characters with disjoints to easily knock it out of the animation and make it generally difficult for the E.M.M.I to recover. Finally, for its down special, the E.M.M.I will make use of the aforementioned scanner, this linking into the also aforementioned pursuit mode and lockdown. However, this move has an additional effect I have yet to mention, for if the player inputs down special twice in quick succession, the E.M.M.I will cancel its scanner and instead make use of a unique follow-up attack in the form of Ice Flash. Utilized formally by E.M.M.I Unit 05IM, this move will have the E.M.M.I change the properties of its scanner, narrowing its area of effect and changing its color to an icy blue. If an opponent is in the area of effect when this beam changes its properties, they will take quick rapid damage and be frozen in place, leaving them open to damage much like they would if they were hit by a freeze item or Lucas's PK freeze. While this move's range and decent damage make it a fairly strong neutral tool, the E.M.M.I must sacrifice 20% of its scanner bar in order to use it, making it a move it can only use in limited quantities. And once it enters pursuit mode, it will be unable to use the move at all until the mode comes to an end. Ice Flash will only stay active for 0.8 seconds, so the player will need to make sure they have their opponent in their line of sight at the beginning of the attack should they want to make the most of it. Next is the Final Smash, and there's only one way this can possibly be taken. The true purpose of the E.M.M.I is made clear, and anyone within its grasp is in grave danger. This is Capture and Contain. When this Final Smash starts, the E.M.M.I will unleash a huge outward burst of energy, this being similar to the explosive power utilized by E.M.M.I Unit 07PB. All opponents in this area of effect will take notable amount of damage and be blasted back, but it's the opponent closest to the E.M.M.I that will take the full brunt of the cinematic Final Smash. As the opponent struggles to move, the E.M.M.I will move in close and force them to the ground, all before moving its face in close to them. In a flash, the E.M.M.I will activate its close-range extraction needle and drive it into its opponent as the screen goes black. From the darkness, the E.M.M.I's glowing eye will light up, its red light engulfing the area as the scene transitions back to the stage, the E.M.M.I returning to its idle animation as it does so. This Final Smash is only capable of hitting one opponent at a time, and if the opponent impaled is over 100% at the point the Final Smash ends, they will be instantly KO'd. Should they be below 100% when the attack ends, they will be left in the knockdown state as the E.M.M.I returns to its idle animation, this allowing the E.M.M.I player to potentially tech chase their getup and follow up with even more damage. For its victory theme, the E.M.M.I will make use of a jingle I've come to coin as the Metroid villain victory theme, which is the victory theme used by both Ridley and Dark Samus. This is also the victory theme I gave to both Ravenbeak and Kraid, so I feel like keeping this a running tradition as long as I continue to cover Metroid villains. Victory animation number 1 will have the E.M.M.I drop down from above, it folding itself back onto its hind legs before raising its head, its large red eyes staring straight into the camera with its cold, soulless glare. As it stares, a series of chirps and words will be heard in the background. Victory animation number 2 will show a dark screen, all before a blinding red light fills the area. At this point, the E.M.M.I will reach forward and grab the camera, forcing it to the ground. While it may not ever impale the camera with its needle, its intentions are very much clear. Finally, victory animation number 3 will show a blank screen, all before a clawed hand reaches out from behind the camera, grabbing onto it and turning it around. At this point, the E.M.M.I's piercing glaze will fill the screen, the whirs and chirps continuing in the background until the players cycle back to the character select screen. Taunt number 1 will have the E.M.M.I spin its claws rapidly, clacks and whirs emanating from its body as it does so. Once the spinning stops, the E.M.M.I's eye will light up and emit a small electric shock. Taunt number 2 will have the E.M.M.I go low to the ground, letting out its iconic whirs and beeps before returning to its standing position. As it goes low, the E.M.M.I will search around itself using its scanner, and if the opponent is within its line of sight, it will add to the scanner bar's charge. Finally, taunt number 3 will have the E.M.M.I bend its body backwards, creepily staring at the opponent standing behind them before maneuvering its body to face them. This taunt, much like its up smash, will also flip the E.M.M.I around. For its colors, the E.M.M.I will make reference to the 7 units deployed on Planet ZDR in Metroid Dread, all while gaining an additional color that fits in line with the title it debuted in. Color number 1 is the E.M.M.I standard white paint job, this also referencing E.M.M.I Unit 02 SM. Color number 2 will change the E.M.M.I's armor plating to a vibrant green, this referencing Unit 03 MB. Color number 3 will change the E.M.M.I's armor plating to a bright yellow, referencing Unit 04 SB. Color number 4 will change the E.M.M.I's armor plating to an icy blue, this referencing Unit 05 IM. Color number 5 will turn the E.M.M.I's armor plating a deep purple, this referencing Unit 06 WB. Color number 6 will turn the E.M.M.I's armor plating a burning orange, referencing Unit 07 PB. Color number 7 will change the E.M.M.I's armor plating to a dull silver, this referencing the damage Unit 01P that Samus encounters at the beginning of the game. Finally, color number 8 will grant the E.M.M.I a unique color scheme, changing parts of its armor to an aqua blue and dull red, this being dubbed Unit 08 PS and referencing Samus' standard power suit from Metroid Dread. Metroid Dread did so much right, both in terms of game design and the publicity it gave what has always been known as a franchise with smaller sales numbers. As a matter of fact, the impact this title had on the series as a whole has been fairly large, and it's likely to remain relevant in the minds of fans and creators alike even when we do eventually get Metroid Prime 4. As a result, a Metroid newcomer is something many fans are pining for in the next Smash Bros. And between the available options, there's 3 characters seemingly fighting to be the top dog. These characters are Sylux from the Metroid Prime series, Ravenbeak, the main villain of Metroid Dread that has become an overnight fan favorite, and the E.M.M.I, the terrifying machines that have filled many a player with, well, dread. Personally, I believe that Ravenbeak has the best chance out of all 3 of them, simply because of the impact he had despite not having much of an on-screen presence. And while I definitely believe that the E.M.M.I could work as a fighter given its potential for unique animations and its wide variety of Metroid-themed abilities, it definitely feels like something the development team would see more as an assist trophy and put in the game as such. Of course, this is a personal belief and nothing more, but when it comes to Metroid newcomers, I'll definitely take whatever I can get. It's a series with a wide variety of characters that can be made into fighters, so even if one of them makes it in, I'll be more than happy. If you like what you saw, be sure to like, subscribe, and press that little bell icon to make sure you never miss a future upload. I've been Felicia Fan, and thank you for watching.